Let's start by cutting the fabric. Create 2 folds in your fabric. Position the front and back top pieces, along with the facing, on the fabric as shown in the image and carefully cut them out. Also make 2 folds in your interfacing. Cut the back and top facing from the interfacing as illustrated in the image. If you are making the set, create a single fold in your fabric, then place the skirt pattern on the fold line for the front piece. Position the same pattern next to it for the back piece, as shown in the image. Add 1 centimeter to the middle of the back piece, as indicated with the red line on the image. Cut the straps from the remaining fabric. For the dress, cut the skirt pattern pieces like you would for the skirt, but avoid cutting the areas marked with a purple line in the image. In addition, you don't have to cut the straps. Now let's start sewing. First, finish the straight side of the back skirts with an overlock stitch. Put the back skirts on top of each other with the right sides facing. Pin the straight sides together and stitch them with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Iron the seam open. Pin the side seams of the front and back skirt together, right sides facing. Sew using a 1 centimeter seam allowance, then finish the edges with an overlock stitch. Finish the top and the bottom of the skirt with an overlock stitch. Fold the top of the skirt over by 4 centimeters and pin in place. Sew with a 3.5 centimeter seam allowance, leaving a 1 centimeter opening at the end. Cut a 3 centimeters wide elastic to size, attach a safety pin, and thread it through the casing. Overlap the elastic ends by 2 centimeters and secure with 2 parallel stitches 1 centimeter apart. Finish by stitching the casing closed. Secure the skirt's bottom with an overlock stitch, then fold it over by 2 centimeters and pin in place. Sew with a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. Align the short ends of the straps together and sew using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Press the seam open. Fold the long sides of the straps inward by 1 centimeter each and press these folds flat using the steam function of your iron. Fold the short sides of the straps inward by 1 centimeter each and press these folds flat, then trim the corners to prevent them from protruding later. Fold the straps in half and press the fold flat using the steam function of your iron. Sew both the short and long sides of the straps 2 millimeters from the edge. Place the front top piece on the back top piece, ensuring the right sides of the fabric are facing each other. Pin and sew the shoulder and right side seam with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. If you are making the dress, also pin and sew the left side seam. Finish with an overlock stitch. Finish each left side separately with an overlock stitch. Pin the sides together, placing a horizontal pin 2 centimeters from the bottom and another 2 centimeters above the first to mark the gap. Sew the side seams together using a 1 centimeter seam allowance, starting from the bottom to the first pin and then from the second pin to the top of the side seam, leaving a gap in between the pins. Iron the seam open and flat. Secure the top's bottom with an overlock stitch. Fold the top's bottom over by 2 centimeters and pin in place. Sew with a 1.8 centimeter seam allowance. Secure a safety pin to the strap, then thread it through the hole at the bottom of the left side seam. Iron the adhesive side of the inner facing to the wrong side of the fabric's front facing. Do the same for the back facing. Place the front facing on the back facing, aligning the shoulder seams. Pin them together and stitch using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Finish the edges with an overlock stitch. Pin the facing to the top of the garment, ensuring the right sides of the fabric are together. Stitch around the neckline using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Make small cuts around the curved edges to ease the fabric. Fold the facing to the inside of the garment and iron. Stitch around the neckline with a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. Insert the top of the skirt through the neck opening of the top and align the bottom edge of the top with the top edge of the skirt, ensuring the right sides of both are facing each other. Make sure the back of the skirt, identifiable by the center seam, aligns with the back of the top. Stitch the front of the top to the front of the skirt using a 1.5 centimeters seam allowance. Fold the bottom of the top and the top of the skirt inward by 1.5 centimeters and press flat with an iron. Stitch along the top and bottom of the folded sections with a 1 centimeter seam allowance, leaving a 1 centimeter opening at the end of both stitches. You've created casings at the bottom of the top and the top of the skirt. Cut 2 pieces of 1 centimeter wide elastic to the required length. Attach a safety pin to the end of each elastic. Thread one elastic through the casing at the bottom of the top and the other through the casing at the top of the skirt. Tie the ends of each elastic together with a secure knot. Close the openings in the casings to finish. You're done. Check this video's description for the links to the tutorials of the sleeves you selected.